I'm Diane Baker, and I'm a member of the board of Genetic Alliance. And it is my deep privilege to be here to present the Art of Advocacy Award. Tonight we celebrate and recognize the enormous contribution of Dennis Pollock. And there's a lovely profile of Dennis in our program. In addition, we're going to share some comments to amplify upon this remarkable man. And we also acknowledge this is a banquet room full of advocates, and we celebrate all of you and take this moment to recognize a very special and particular advocate. I'm going to introduce a couple of Dennis's colleagues who will tell you stories about him. I'm going to share one of my own because Dennis did something very brave and amazingly powerful for us back in over a decade in which we were fighting to get Gina to the floor for a vote. We found ourselves faced with a very difficult situation. This was about 2008. And we were scheduling our Hill Day, which many of you here participated in, and we found ourselves with a very critical senator in the state of Oklahoma who had a hold on the bill. And what that means is that because everything works on what's called unanimous consent in the Senate, this bill could not come to the floor because of one senator. And we discovered that this was the issue about 2 days before our Hill Day. So what we needed were constituents from Oklahoma to come out here, and we found a geneticist and a genetic counselor who said they would do this on 2 days' notice. And we found Dennis Pollock, whom we had not really known, although he was well known in the alpha-1 antitrypsin community, a condition which affected Dennis and a community in which he was quite an involved advocate. And with about a day and a half notice, Dennis hopped on a plane, came out here, met us on the Hill. The flights were such with connecting flights that he actually, I think, got in the middle of the day. Our Hill Day's underway, and we were getting ready to meet this person who has just arrived, and in walks this ray of sunshine. A man of enormous spirit and integrity and humor and personal experience of living with a chronic health condition, and absolutely delightful spirit. Dennis absolutely charmed the staff in this cranky senator's office and went on to really lead a statewide effort in Oklahoma that lifted the hold on this bill. And for those of us today who reap the benefits of the genetic information non-discrimination legislation, we all owe a deep debt to Dennis for this one act in addition to the many other acts of advocacy he provided for us. I would now like to welcome up here Kathy Horzak and Miriam O'Day from the alpha-1 antitrypsin community, who are going to tell us a bit about Dennis. And I believe I neglected to mention that Dennis lost his battle to alpha-1 last October.
I hope you all have taken the opportunity to read the wonderful things that are in the program about Dennis. There wasn't anything he didn't do in our community, in the alpha-1 community. And he was a support group leader. He was a peer guide. He had his double lung transplant, and he basically reinvented himself and came out of that transplant, and I had the honor of sitting in the waiting room with his beautiful wife Shelley and his daughter. And Dennis was more determined than ever to make a difference in our community, and he did just that. And I'm going to expand a little bit on Diane's story because, and she didn't call the senator by name, but I will. It was Senator Tom Coburn in Oklahoma, and Miriam actually called me. I think she got a call from someone here at the Genetic Alliance, and Miriam called and said, "Kathy, who can we get from Oklahoma?" And I said, Dennis will go. So I got on the phone and I called Dennis, and he said, "Sure, when do you need me?" tomorrow. And Dennis had a theory that he always practiced and that he always preached to our community, and that was the theory of the power of 10. Now, on the phone with Dennis, he was absolutely convinced that all he had to do was walk into Senator Tom Coburn's office, sit down, have a reasonable conversation with him, and that he would lift the hold. He just was very confident that that would happen. And he went there, had the conversation, and Senator Coburn said no, he wasn't going to lift the hold. Well, a lot of people would have been mad or discouraged or angry, but Dennis left that office more determined than ever. And before he ever walked out of the building, he got on his cell phone and he called 10 of his support group members in Oklahoma. And he challenged them to call 10 of their family members and friends. And he said, I want you to light up the phones in that senator's office. And they did. Such that Senator Coburn's office called Dennis later that afternoon and said, you got to stop the phone calls. We can't get any work done. And Dennis says, well, is he going to lift the hold? And they said, well, no, he's not. He said, well, then the phone calls aren't going to stop. And they didn't. They continued to call and to continue to call and call and call until he finally did release the hold. So this is my first time to this conference, and I've really enjoyed meeting so many of you. And I know that some of you are representing what seems like small constituents, but don't be discouraged by your ability to make a difference, because Dennis did.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. Unfortunately, when you work in chronic disease, you learn how to say goodbye, and sometimes the goodbyes are harder than others. We have honored Dennis many times in the Alpha One community, and it really is, I'm very proud to be here on his behalf and on behalf of his family and the organizations that we represent to accept an award for him where he is recognized by the larger genetics community. So I would really like to thank the Genetic Alliance for recognizing Dennis and his contribution. Some of the training that takes place at conferences like the one that the Genetic Alliance is running this weekend is to really institutionalize some of the things that happen that are really personality driven. And while we learn how to institutionalize some of those things, we also very much need to remember and share and make sure that we do, that there are individuals who are impacting change constantly, and Dennis Pollock was one of those. Here tonight with us are Shelley Pollock, Dennis's wife, and Shelley is a general in the army of individuals that are caretakers, that take care of individuals with chronic disease and do all kinds of things that they never expect that they would be called upon to do. And so we honor Shelley Pollock tonight as well. Also with us is Tara, Dennis's daughter, and we honor her as well. So thank you to both of you for being here. And the first time that I spent a full day with Dennis on the Hill after Kathy had introduced him to me, I called her and I said, you know what, Kathy, I absolutely love Dennis Pollock. And she said, get in line. So thank you very much.
I'd like to I would just like to issue a challenge to all of you to go home and to implement Dennis's power of 10 theory in your lives. I think it'll make a difference for you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. And now we invite Dennis's wife, Shelley, and his daughter, Tara, to join us up here for the award. And let me read this to you. Dennis Pollock, Art of Advocacy Award, for opening our hearts to ideas, reason, and laughter.